another episode of the Impel podcast. I'm your host, Leon, and today I have with me Bo, Big Bo, Pro Bo,
That's right.
Mr. Former North Carolina in bodybuilding. Been knowing Bo for a long time, since 2001, 2, 3, somewhere around there. Met him at the YMCA. Of course, we was both working out. We never hung out, never worked out together, but we always cordial when we see each other.
Very respectful, yeah.
Yeah, and I asked him to come on the show, and he's here with me. We'll talk about his life growing up and things he's been through and where he's at now.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
Good to have you.
Thanks for having me here, man. I've been watching you do your thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you, man. Continue to do what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and just dive into it,
Okay.
Jump
Come on
into
with
it. So
let's talk about it.
tell me, what, we know you did a stint in prison.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, how did it all start?
It all started, I can say from, my childhood, me growing up, seeing all types of different activity in the neighborhood. My mom was a single parent, my grandmother, and so I didn't have that strong figure there to show me different things that was going on. So I watched the guys in the street. You probably heard this 1,000 times.
Right.
And the things they were doing, I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I always been a fast kid, man.
Right.
I always been one that was mischievous, stayed into something. And so it started from that to where I was exposed to the drugs and, making money, wanted different things, that I couldn't have. Mom couldn't afford the Jordans and all that kind of stuff back then. Mm-hmm. So it was my way of getting it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, Leon, it started off with just, me having fun, if that makes sense. Just, make a little money. There's no consequences.
Right.
And from that, it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger as I get older. I started, meet more people, sell more drugs. And eventually, they ended me up in prison.
So what was your first, how many times did you go?
Wow, I went to prison 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah, my first trip to prison, I think it was in 1989. I caught a 10-year sentence, and I went away for a little time. I was released on parole, got out. Of course, I continued to do the same things at a higher level, end up violation, what they call parole, went back to prison, again, got out. But the third time I got out, I was trying to do something different.
Now, how long did you do on your second stint?
The second stint, I stayed gone 8 years.
8 years? Okay.
8 years.
Wow.
8 years.
Okay.
So a total, at the 3 times I went to prison, I gave them 12 years of my life.
12 years. So you went back the third time?
The third time I did 8 years. The first time I did like 15 months. And I think the second trip, I think I was gone maybe 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all together, each time I went, you notice I got more time.
Right.
They offered me 45 years, man. I had never heard of nothing like that.
45 years?
45. I'm not saying 4 out of 5. It was 45 years.
45, right.
And that, believe me, that sound is something that makes your body numb. And by God's grace, man, I was offered a plea bargain. I took a plea bargain for 22 years.
Right.
And like I said, I fell up under 1/8 law, 22 cut to 11. So a little bit over 8 years matched that sentence.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you was telling me about when I think around the third time you had went that you.
But the third time I went, man, I was really had my family and everybody telling me that, man, you got so much to offer. You need to get your life together. You need to do something different. And I started to pay attention to those things. And I was trying to find myself in prison. One thing in prison about, you either going to stay in the stuff or you're going to have time to reflect on your life. And that's what I did. And I just made a decision that when I get out, that I'm going to do something different. Basic stuff like get my driver license that I never had in my life. Like I said, I drove for 12 years without driver license.
12 years?
12 years without driver license.
Okay.
And, just being, making amends and trying to fix things. I wanted to really try to see, can I live in this society of doing the right thing? I've been doing wrong all my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we talked off camera a little bit. You was telling me about, like, you would see people you thought was squares or lames.
Yeah, I always, I always been the type of guy that, I was popular, everybody knew me. And I thought I justified what I was doing was right. And I used to see people, this young man used to live across the street from me, and he had a couple of kids, and I'd be there stood out there selling drugs all night, and I used to see him come out early in the morning, warm the car up, trying to put the baby seat in the car and drop the baby off, the wife off, and get to work. And I just thought that was like, the worst thing can happen. He's
Right.
lame. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So he
right,
missing something.
Uh-huh.
So, but I reckon I had to go back to this guy
Mm-hmm.
on my journey of trying to be redeemed, and I just told this guy I respected what he was doing back then, and I just asked for help.
This
you
was
know,
when you came home finally for
finally
the last time.
for the last
Okay.
time,
Uh-huh.
and asked for some guidance,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy was willing to tell me. He just told me, you don't know anything.
Okay.
You know, you don't know how to live with a structured life. You know, and I accepted that. So I started doing some things. I started changing. Started going to church. You know, I stopped distancing myself with certain people, going certain places, and but in the back of my mind, I still didn't trust the process. You
Okay.
know, and what I mean by that, people just don't go away because you decide to change.
Right, right.
So I still had people offering me
Different things.
different
Yeah.
things.
So you were still in and out. A little
In
bit.
and out, in and out, and you know that don't work. You have to make a constant decision. And I was doing all those things, and I was at first. I remember I jumped over a little something. You know, it's when I got the third time. You know, I had the first time I went to prison, I had been using.
Okay.
You know, I never was a big user. You know, I used abusively for about 3 years.
3 years.
You
Was
know.
it hard drugs or weed or?
Well, cocaine.
Cocaine,
You
okay,
know, a little
yeah.
heroin.
Right,
and,
okay.
At that time, basically what I can get my hands on, to be honest.
Okay.
And but I did it for 3 years, and so that was the biggest part of me contributing me going back to prison. The last 2 times I was using now,
Okay.
and now I'm using and selling. So I got it all
Right.
going on. So when I got out, you know, I had to be confronted with the NA program. You know, how you gonna stay off the drugs?
Right.
How you gonna do all this at one time? It's too much. And so I started going to NA meetings and being around different people who were just like me.
Right.
You know, and I started to share some things that I wouldn't normally tell people. You know, I'm sitting around this circle and these people kind of pouring their lies out there, and I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
You know, I'm Big Bo.
Yeah.
I can't put
Right.
this out there.
Right.
But once I started to open up about my life and reality of what was really going on, that I didn't have it going on, I surrendered, man.
Right.
And I was trying to make it, and like I said, I had a few things that I was trying to clean up and dip and dab. And one day, that got me back into prison on my 3rd trip, I was clean. You know, I was working. You know, I'm hustling. I'm going to church. I'm doing the Big Brother program. I'm doing Operation Hope.
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of good
Everything.
things, but I still have drugs.
Right.
And in particular, one morning, you know, I had been out all night, and I came in. Some guys that went in a place that I had some drugs at, and one thing led to another. Was a misunderstanding, and some people got assaulted that day.
Right. Right.
And I ended up getting busted and charged for the assault.
Right. Right.
And that ended me up back up in prison, which hurted me the worst out of the first 2 trips I ever had been.
Okay.
Because I was clean.
Right.
I called myself doing good. The humiliation.
Right.
You know, the disappointment that I had put that people going to see
Uh-huh.
that I thought I had food. So that trip there was the hardest time I ever had to do based off how I got back into prison.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I see you had a scar on your face. Did that come from prison or in the streets? I always wanted to ask you that.
I know you were going to ask me about that. But no, I can say it came from the street. It just came in a part of my life where I was unmanageable. And
Right.
like you said, when you're dealing drugs and you're doing all kinds of stuff, it comes with all kinds of different relationships.
Right.
And you get in too many different relationships, you know, everybody don't know the value of love
Right.
and understand what love really means.
Right.
I was in a relationship with a young lady. They were about 12 years older than I was.
Okay.
You know, I always kind of like older ladies at that time. And it just came down to a misunderstanding of what my love was, what her love
Right.
was.
Right. Right.
And we lived together for a while. And long short story, she got into a place that I still had, an apartment. And I was there with some more people that I shouldn't have been with.
Okay.
And I reckon, man, she cut me while I was asleep. I was cutting my sleep. And they had in the paper, Leon, I think the next day it said bedside slicer.
Oh wow.
Right, bedside slicer. And then
Right.
then the thing was, it was bowl.
Right. Right.
You know,
Right.
this
yeah.
bowl.
Yeah.
And I had 700 and some stitches inside my face, man. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, it was one of the wake-up calls to where I can recall being in the emergency room, and they was telling me that all my facial nerves was cut in my face. You know, I wasn't going to smile again, and my eye wasn't going to open.
Right.
You can imagine what they're doing to a guy on Big Bow.
Right,
you know?
right.
And they couldn't take me into surgery because I had so many drugs in my system. And I can recall the doctor was asking me, you know, have I been up? I had been up 3 days, and did I drink? Yeah, I had about 2 cases of beer. Are you doing the drugs? Yeah, I've been doing cocaine.
Right.
How much cocaine you did in 3 days? Maybe an ounce or 2.
Right.
And I got my mother, my sister. I got people who love me standing over me. And I didn't want to say heroin in front of my mother.
Oh, wow.
And it's be an old term that identify heroin in the street. We just call it boy.
Oh, yeah, boy.
So I said, yeah, I've been doing a little boy. And then the doctor said, well, I'm not familiar with that one. And my mother had a fit, but they told me that there's no way they could put me up under anesthesia. And if I had consumed that many drugs, I was already dead. I was already, and for a second, I couldn't identify, was I listening to them tell me I was dead? Or was I dead? Right. And so even though I got the scar on my face, it played a big part of me to where I'm at today.
Right. So so what did they do? They end up giving you surgery?
Well, they ended up giving me surgery. I went into surgery, and like I said, I had 700 some stitches. And I had some other activity going on that night that I think I had shot a guy that allegedly at that time. So they were looking for me too. Wow. So it was a bad experience for my family. When I come out of surgery, they got me wrapped up like a mummy. Can't see me, Leon. But the police were there to tell my mother, you got to take him downtown. And I don't have no clothes on. I ain't dressed. I just got hospital clothes. Right. And they ended up taking me downtown, charged me for that, and they released me to my mother. So that's why I resided to this whole thing. But it was an ordeal that I went through that it took a lot for me to overcome from, but I did, yeah.
Yeah, being in the streets and going through things like that, we always I tell people all the time, we put pressure on our families and hurt our families a lot, you know.
Yeah. You know, my mother, bless her heart, she was the mother of mothers. You know, you always have that neighborhood mother that everybody can go to, know a phone number. Right. So everything I did, you know, I didn't see that it affected my mother, my family, because we were so known. The Allen family from the West End, everybody knew it. Right. But me and my mother always had more of a friendship relationship for a long time. Right. You know, based on how I was raised. I was the man of the house. I was told I was the man of the house. Right. You know, doing things that, you know, grown folks should have been doing. So we had a different conversation, different feel for each other. Right. And not that she felt that she was blamed for that, but she knew a lot of my behavior came from the way I was raised.
Taking on responsibility.
You know what I'm saying? The lights was off. I knew how to go out there, you know, steal a meter and cut it back on. If the water was off, I had my own little wrench to cut it back on. She knew I could get things done. If I had to lie to the insurance man at the door, you know, I was the one to take care of those things. So, my mother was inspiration to where she watched me transition through all this.
Right. Definitely. Now, from what it sounds like, your father was never around, or
my father, my father was around a little bit, as in I seen him.
You seen him,
you
around.
know, he wasn't in my life. I was told who my father was, and he was in the military. And he and my mother was never in a serious relationship or anything, but I identified who he was. And that played a part in a lot of things I did too, Leon. That when I did see him, I wanted him to see that I was doing well. Okay. I wanted him to know that, you know, I still got a car, I still got shoes and stuff like that. But he was around, never got the confirmation of he was my father from him to many years down the road. But we didn't never have a relationship. You know, it was more on a identification. If he seen me, I spoke. But we ended up talking maybe years down the road. But my father was never there. Right. For our relationship. No.
Okay. Yeah. Now, both your parents still living?
No. Well, my mother passed going on 2 years.
Okay, sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
she passed. My father, he's is a resident at the VA.
Okay.
He had a stroke a few years ago. Maybe about 5 years ago. Which still is a touchy subject for me.
Right,
You know,
right, I understand.
I didn't go see him for a long time, and one thing my mother did before she passed, she encouraged me to go see him.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, did y'all have a
Yeah,
relationship?
yeah, she
Right.
encouraged me to go see him, and I did. Me and my wife, and I think things happened unexpectedly that spiritually or emotionally I wasn't. You know, I still found out I was still that kid.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
thought I was over it. I was a man. I done did all these things, but I was still longing for that confirmation.
Right, right.
And I started, to go see him, and I ended up going to see him every day.
Okay.
And I don't know how that started. Bring him Sunday to eat
Right.
because I wanted to question him and ask him about things. He'd been in the military. I heard that he had other kids
Right.
overseas and right here in Durham.
Right.
And so we kind of bonded a little bit. But he was married, and he had a wife that never accepted that he had an outside kid.
Okay.
Regardless, and me being the kid.
Right.
And she was in the way of it, and he wanted me to bring him out on what they call a home pass from the prison,
right.
from VA.
Hospital.
And she stepped in the way of that. I mean, I came in one day off the elevator, and the nurse said, "Excuse me, Mr. Allen, can I speak to you?" I said, "Sure." She said, "How do you know Mr. Whitaker?" And I said, "Well, he's my father." And I can recall the nurse asking me, "Well, how do you know that?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry. My mother told me that, right?
Right.
But it's stung. You imagine how I
Oh
felt.
yeah.
And that his wife had recommended that I can't take him anywhere, and that he wasn't my father. So you can imagine
Right.
the anger and what I felt. And so I walked in, and he was sitting there, and I sat there for a few minutes watching him, and he realized I was there. And he turned around and said, "Are we going out?" And I just told him, we can't.
Wow.
And he wanted to know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, your past caught up with you today." And I told him, "I'm giving you one shot right here. I'm a grown man.
Right.
I'm giving you one shot. I understand it. I get it. Good-looking man. You in the service. You come into town.
Right.
You in everybody's back door. You went through a door that caught your attention. You lied about your past. You got one shot at it." And he confessed. He said, "Man, I'm sorry." I said, "You sorry for what, Bill?" He said, "I've been lying for 40 years. I told you want my son."
Oh wow.
And that to be honest, that did something to me. But I wanted him to feel that pain. And I told him, "Well, Bill, you have to sit in it today." And Leon started walking towards the elevator, man. My legs, I think I had did leg day today. My legs was numb. I couldn't walk. And I was just saying, "Lord, please don't let me turn around."
Right.
I mean, it was some real emotion stuff. And he was calling my name. Bo. And the elevator started to seem like it was down the hallway.
Right.
Then I heard one of the nurses say, "Mr. Allen, he calling you." And I said, "Lord, don't let me turn around." And I didn't, man. I went on that day, and I just took that, Leon, as a closure, so to speak. That even though it wasn't what I wanted him to say,
Right.
he said it.
Right.
And so I haven't been back since. I heard he was doing well,
Right.
but I just used that to try to make my life better with my kids.
Right.
Based off our relationship, have affected the way that I have had my relationship with my kids.
Right.
Which I'm trying to make better. Yeah, man. It's deep, right?
Yeah,
it was deep.
That's pretty deep, right?
And like I said, I have 3 girls and a boy, and grown kids. Having grandbabies and stuff like that.
Right.
And I have a decent relationship. It's more so whatever position they want me to play.
Right.
Like you can imagine the time I was in prison, I was out their lives,
Right.
in and out. So it wasn't a whole lot of healing, but I think a lot of that behavior came from that I just didn't understand, the fatherhood or have that direction of a father. But it's better.
Right.
Things working out good. Yeah. You didn't see that one coming. Yeah, that's a breather. Right?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good though. Yeah.
So
yeah.
let's talk about this bodybuilding.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, I know you went to prison. We all work out when we go there.
Definitely.
So most of us anyway.
Definitely.
How did you get into
Well,
bodybuilding? Competing?
I always been an athlete, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, always been bigger than my size.
Right.
Always call myself a man child.
Right.
But the bodybuilding started, I got to stay in the prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got in the prison and started working out. You ain't got nothing else to do but work out.
That's it. Read.
And I worked out, and they started having a couple competitions inside the prison. And, we didn't know. We just thought how big can be go down there. So I got in the competition, and I think I won that.
Mm-hmm.
And from there on, it just always became a part of me working out. It's
Right.
always been a routine for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got out, I wanted to continue that, more so as a place to go, as a safe haven.
Right.
I don't want to go back in the streets. Am I ready to be around certain people? So I stayed at the gym all day, all night when I got out. And I worked out. And one day I met a gentleman named Maton Nance.
Mm-hmm.
You probably heard that name before.
No.
He was a known bodybuilder. He owned a bunch of restaurants. And he was an old guy. He kind of looked like Ric Flair.
Okay.
And he walks up to me one day in the gym, and he said, "Man, wow, you have a nice physique. You look great. Are you a bodybuilder?" And I was like, "I don't know." And he said, "Wow, you don't know."
Right.
He said, "So you a weightlifter or you a bodybuilder?"
Mm-hmm.
He said, "If you find out," he said, "if you be a bodybuilder, man, you can be great."
Mm-hmm.
And I started trying to figure out what he mean. I'm
Right.
a weightlifter and bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to pick his brain. And I was working out with some guys who really didn't care for him for whatever reason.
Right.
So I started coming in early.
Right.
So I can pick his brain, and they won't see me with him, and everybody be cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I talked to him, the more he started identifying with me about what bodybuilding was.
Mm-hmm.
Bodybuilding is a job. It's a craft.
Mm-hmm.
It's art. It's beauty. It's spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
It's ballet. It's individual.
Right.
And he said, if you can take on all those things, you can be great. So me and him started working out together. Left my friends alone.
Around what year was this?
This was probably 2000, maybe 2000,
Okay.
2001, somewhere
Okay.
up in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think my first show might have been 2005.
Okay.
I did the first show
Mm-hmm.
and didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know nothing about getting shaved and dehydration and putting on the trunks there. Everybody just laughing. I don't want to wear these trunks up there. Big bow, I can't put these trunks on.
Right.
Getting painted. But he was there with me for the whole while. And I won that show, which was at Virginia State University. And that continued. So he became my coach. And now I'm putting all my time into the gym. Now I'm studying bodybuilding. I'm reading everything about the great Frank Zanes and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm reading everything I can read. I'm obsessed with it now.
Right.
And that went on for a while. I ended up winning a couple more shows. And I just started to get better and better. And as I was doing this, no one was coming to the shows.
Right.
None of my friends, maybe one or two, was coming because they didn't take it serious. Everybody was saying, "Oh, he's doing some recreation stuff."
Right.
They thought it was just like me down at the park.
Mm-hmm.
I started to get some attraction and some attention when I won Mr. North Carolina.
What year was that?
I won Mr. North Carolina in 2011 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't repeat Mr. North Carolina.
Okay.
If you win that show, that's how big it is. You always going to be Mr. North Carolina.
Oh, so you still Mr. North Carolina?
I'm still Mr. North
Okay.
Carolina. Correct.
I
that
think,
former.
I think at the beginning I said former.
Right.
So you still Mr. North
Right,
Carolina.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's how big the show is.
Mm-hmm.
I won that show, and that show really kind of like changed my life in a way for us. Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I didn't realize how big the show was and what I really had done.
Mm-hmm.
And one particular day, my wife now, which was my fiance at the time, said that someone was there looking for me, wanted to talk to me.
Somebody came to your door.
Came to my door.
Okay.
And it was Lewis Bolden.
Mm-hmm.
And Lewis Bolden was the head editor of Central at the time, I think, and the Durham Herald.
Okay.
And I get on the phone, talk to him, ask, can I help him? He said, "Hey, champ, how you doing? You just won Mr. North Carolina. I'm here to tell you, I want to hear your story." And I'm saying to myself, what story is to hear? I won the show.
Yeah.
He said, "Nah, I heard you recovering addict. I heard you're an ex-drug dealer. I heard you been to prison." And I was like, "Oh, my God."
They done dug up
They
everything.
done dug up everything,
Right.
you know. And he said, I want to hear that. I want to talk about it. And I felt some kind of way because, you know, Leon, I never wanted to mislead people who I was. Because you talk to certain people, they think I'm a bodybuilder.
Right.
They always see me to be a bodybuilder.
Just bodybuilder both.
Don't know I'd have been through internet.
Right.
So he came to my house and we started to sit down and tell my story. And if you Google today, not the crime law, you can Google me today, Gerald Allen, the bodybuilder. You see one of the articles where it says, "What a ride."
Okay.
And I'm telling him my story, and it was just unbelievable to him. And he came up with that headline, "What a ride."
Right.
So I would tell my fiance at the time, I couldn't sleep. What everybody gonna think? You know, I'd have talked about everything in here. You know, what people gonna think of me the next day. And it came out.
Right.
And it was big, man. It changed my life. You know, it really empowered me to another level to where people could not believe that I had been through that much in my life and the transition into the bodybuilder. You know, and so I just started to add that to my shows and bodybuilding just been my life, man. I did a whole lot of shows. I mean, I've been there with Victor and the Valerie. Muscle Heat, IFBB Pro shows. I started off in the NPA, NPC. I just did my biggest show, 2019, where I got my pro license. And that was in Teaneck, New Jersey. You know, the bodybuilding took me a lot of places. And I ended up getting my IFBB Pro card, which stands for the International Federation of Bodybuilding. And, but yeah, just been working out a long time. The bodybuilder been my life. We can go on about how many shows I did. They've been everywhere, but they've been a big part of my transition far as where I'm at right now today.
So how did it feel when you won? The year you won, and take me through that process on stage.
Well, it was. I mean, it was a feeling I can't explain, man. It was overwhelming. One thing I got to explain that I come from a life of being cold and not expressing my feelings or letting you see me cry or
Well, you express your feelings, but in another way.
In another way, right. So it was like it was new for me, but it was like a feeling of positivity, man. You did something good.
Right.
Like I finally found something that wow, I can grow from, that I really like. One thing about bodybuilding, you're gonna find out something about yourself. The discipline and the work that you put in it. So it was emotional, man. It was huge. It encouraged me that I can do whatever I wanted to do.
Right.
That's what I got from it. But it was a feeling that it's overwhelming, man.
Right.
I mean, each time.
When y'all pose and stuff, you do it to music or anything?
Yeah, I do
like
it you do it to music. Like I said, I'm a bodybuilder. I consider to be a heavyweight.
Right.
And I go on stage around about 217.
Okay.
And I'm glad you brought that up. You got to have pose of music. And, I'm probably the only black guy bodybuilder that can't dance. So, I was trying to find a song that, I'm using all kinds of stuff.
Right.
I think my first show that I did, 50. You can find me in the club, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I started using a song that is it's by Howard Huey. I think he sung with Shalimar.
Yeah, Shalimar.
And he sings Amazing Grace. And he sings it a cappella.
Okay.
It's like 90 seconds. It's like that deep.
So you up there posing to Amazing Grace?
I'm up there posed to Amazing Grace, right? And Amazing Grace is not really religious, right? It's just one of them songs that requires attention. It's a reflection song, and when you see me moving to it, man, people sitting out there like, wow, they were mesmerized. Like now my story became to the front.
Right.
Now they can see what I had been through, and you can see it in my movement. It demands silence. The whole place is silent.
Right.
And I've been doing that song, wow, probably for the last 15, 17 years. People change songs every show, but that's my song. Everybody knows it's me. If you go out there before me and you'd have had this boom, 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 the place gets silence. and we added some stuff to the beginning and the end, and it says that I summoned thee, come forth from the darkness into the light, and I started walking out on it. And by the time I get out that maze, it's just a powerful thing, man.
Yeah, I'm sitting here picturing the things you've been through and you done talked about, and then
it's a reflection. Yeah.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing.
Now, how did you come up with the song? Like it fits everything.
Well, you know what? I was as I started to get into the bodybuilding, you know, and my story had got out there, you know, and it changed the look and the outcome of me. I wanted to keep that. I wanted that when everybody see me, they will reflect back on like what it took for me to get here.
God's grace.
God's grace, the sacrifice that I put in, and that you can overcome anything.
Right.
You know. So I was just listening to all these music, and I don't want to offend anybody. You know, we live in the world today. Everybody got this. And I just come across this Amazing Grace, man. It's always been something in my soul about Amazing Grace.
Wow.
You know, you can play it all day. It just takes you back to places that we'd have closed doors on, or times in our life that we'd have got over things. It's just one of those songs I think that everybody can get something from.
Right.
And it just fit my soul, man. It was like, God was saying, this is your song, this is my story. And when you see me moving to it, it's just, I can feel all the energy or everything that I have took on in my life that God have showed me that you can achieve. That's where it come from this song.
Wow.
You know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we was talking about your life now of yoga. How is that?
Well, the life I have now, like I said, I did bodybuilding, man. You know, by God's grace, me and you sitting here talking, you said at the beginning that you said you've been knowing me since 2000. That seemed like years ago, right?
Years ago,
so
right.
I've been doing bodybuilding a long time, and now I'm in the process of healing. You know, trying to take care of my body. You know, I think people just see the gym part of bodybuilding.
Right.
They don't see behind the scenes and, you know, the dieting and the food, playing with your kidneys. You know, when do you take water out your body?
Right.
That's a very dangerous thing that that bodybuilders do that people don't know. You've been seeing a lot of bodybuilders having heart attacks and all that kind of stuff. And the question that I'm gonna answer that I've been getting all my life. Steroids and you on steroids, you gotta be on this and that.
Right.
You know, I can honestly sit here and say that I never took any kind of steroids or anything there. And that was God's grace. And that what motivated me. If I looked like that, if God put me in a position to look like that after all the chemicals that I had in my body, it had to be something powerful for people even to question me. You know, I started taking it as a offense, but it was like, wow, if they see that in me, how much power did I have here? But I never have, you know, I have took, you know, high power, you know, your testosterone levels and stuff like that, all that kind of stuff, but just steroids, no. But the wear and tear, you know, I got arthritis, you know, I look good, but I got it everywhere. To the point where I just taking yoga, you know, stretching, relaxing and trying to do the things to where I could take care of my body and healing. So I'm semi-retired.
Right,
You know, it's not officially been nothing told, but, you know, I always worked off challenges. You know, people say I'm 56 years old, you know, and people still expect for me to look like this. You know, when I come in the gym, they come in, they still ask me how much you bench. Man, you bench 500 pounds. I don't know, right?
Speaking of that, I seen you squatting 500 pounds.
You have, right? And I did that, but I'm in the age now where it's all about just being healthy and leaning out, and so that's where I'm at with it right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I was seeing you around this time. I was probably about 212. You know, I was picking up some good weight, but I hurt my back.
Yeah.
Started having problems doing CrossFit for a little bit. I was doing some everything. And then I said I'm trying to just chill out and maintain the body.
And that's something that is hard to do. You know, like, you know, when you have a passion for something. Because I have had warning signs.
Right.
And what I mean by that, you know, I went to the doctor and, you know, the doctor said, hey, you know, you're you're taking too much of this, and you don't have enough this, you don't have enough sodium in your system, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, I have a good relationship with my doctor. I encourage that with anybody.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? You're gonna take anything, even if you're gonna take the steroid. Let somebody know. Let a doctor know.
Right.
But I started to always felt like I was, you know, nervous and have a whole lot of stuff going on, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and you know, why I was getting so jittery or upset. So a few years ago, I was diagnosed with anxiety and panic attacks. And I could not believe it.
Right.
Me, Bo, the big person I am talking, but it explained a lot of things that was going on in my life at the time where I was so uncomfortable, even if the show was about me.
Right.
And I had to persevere through that, but I found out it was anxiety, you know, a light structure.
Right.
You know, they couldn't figure out what it was. And, you know, I still lay my clothes out for gym the next day like I was in high school.
Right.
But they hit on the head, and it was something that I accepted. And, you know, I started sharing with people, you know, keeping to myself.
Right.
And so I started taking those type of exercises, breathing classes. So that's where the yoga comes into play, and yoga. And it's been good. It's been success to where you have to identify with your body and know what's going on. We're getting older now.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just work out every day. I work out 5 days a week, you know, Monday through Fridays. Weekend, I try to rest, take care of myself.
And do you ever go back to the old Ghost Gym and the big gyms where people slamming weight and screaming?
Yeah, I do. I belong to the Velocity, which is off in Durham, in a Guest Road and Carver. And that's probably the last powerful gym that we have around. You still got the chalk and the free weights and all that kind of stuff. So I still go there every now and then. But I work out at Planet Fitness. And to be honest, I think it's probably the right speed for me now where I'm at. You know, because a lot of people see me like, what are you doing in here working out in Planet Fitness?
Right.
You know, I think this is where I need to be at for what I do.
And if you know what you're doing, you don't need necessarily all that heavy weight. You know what you're doing,
if you know what you're doing. And I've been teaching resistance training for years. I believe in it. I'm convicted with it. I can defend it. I can prove it. And all that I'm saying is that resistance is a controlled environment. Right. I believe in if you can't control your weight, you shouldn't be picking up anything. Right. Oh, exactly. Right. You know, with everybody into the IG, you got to get your videos in. Yeah. Exactly. If you can't do 7 correctly by yourself, I believe in that's too much weight. And if you're doing the magic number in the gym, which is 10. I think that's automatic. Right. So it still should be our best trying to get to 10. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We trying to break the body down in the gym. The gym doesn't build no muscle. I can say that right here on your podcast. Yeah. The gym is the service department, right? So you want to try to have what I teach is 2 mindsets. I woke up this morning training. What you mean by that, bro? Did I eat? What did I eat? How much did I have to eat? Right. When I get ready to go to the gym, I'm going to the gym to work out. And once I'm done working out, I go back to training, right? Because we spend less time from the gym than at the gym. Yeah, so I try to teach people not to put so much in. I got to get to the gym. And I hear that 10 million times a day. But when I see, I got to get to the gym. But, I think that it's the nutrition part.
The rest and sleep.
The rest, the recovery. I don't think they really use the word diet so much now. It's associated with depressing. You know, who wants to be on a diet? It's depressing, right? Yeah. But we have to follow the rule. You have to know what you ate, when you ate, and how much. Right. That structure. And the 3 main things I preach to stay away from, and most people are addicted to one of the 3. You take your pick. We're talking about sugar, salt, flour. Right. We all got 1 out of 3. Right. Those things satisfy the body. So you ask yourself, oh, but I want to eat 1 time today. You know, how is you able to do that and function and making decisions and going to work? One of those 3 factors, right? And they don't go with water. Right. People say, I can't drink that much water. Yeah, you're full of one of those things. Right. So I just try to bring people's mind back to what's real. They're selling all kinds of stuff. You know, now you can go get a new arm, get a new leg, whatever you want. So that's my thing that I teach, and I just love what I do, man. Right. Definitely.
That's awesome. So what would you tell a younger kid who's going out there, who's out there living a life of crime or doing things you shouldn't be doing? We're just trying to find a way. Or what would you tell a younger Bo?
Yeah, I would tell a younger boy or a young kid that, it's more to it than what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to assess people, places, and things that's around you, and take what's positive for you. Be real to yourself and let people know exactly where you are. And just work on certain things for as what are your goals? What are you trying to do? Where you trying to get to? Do you want to get there quickly, the wrong way? End up making mistakes like I did.
Right.
Or be patient is the word I'm using. Or be patient. But you have to have somebody you could find to. Got to have God too, man. I got to throw that in there. Sometimes when people young, they hear the word, but we don't understand the relationship with God, so to speak. But have to find a spiritual base. And work hard. Work for what you're trying to get.
Right.
If you fail, you fail. Acknowledge. It's a thing in the program that I took from that I tell any young person. It says that we do a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves.
Right.
That means that the fearless is mean I'm not afraid to go looking inside of me. More the value to understand where I'm at. So if we stay true and stay grounded and work hard, it'll be better, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's good word. Good word.
Yeah.
Man, it's a pleasure having you.
It's 100, man, Leon.
Pleasure
Listen, man, you doing your thing.
Yeah.
I seen some of your broadcasts, man. You got a bright future going.
Appreciate it.
And I think that what you're doing can reach a lot of people, man.
Right. Trying to.
It's a pleasure having me here, definitely.
Thank you.
100, yes.
Well, there you have it for another episode of the Impel Forward Podcast. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Impel Forward Podcast.